Most first-time homebuyers walk through homes and completely miss the biggest red flags. And it can cost you thousands after you buy. And the tricky part is, these aren't always obvious major issues. Sometimes it's small things that hint at bigger problems underneath. So if you're starting to look at homes in Indianapolis or planning too soon, this is something you really want to understand before you go to your next showing. Because here's what I see all the time. Buyers walk into a house, they're focused on the kitchen, the layout, how it feels, and they completely overlook signs that something might be off with the home itself. Then, a few weeks later, after they're under contract or even after they move in, those issues turned into expensive surprises. And that's exactly what we want to help you avoid. In this video, I'm going to walk you through what to actually look for when you're touring homes, the red flags most buyers miss, and also which things might look scary but are actually not a big deal. That way, you can walk into your next showing feeling confident about what you're seeing and what you should be asking. All right, let's start with the biggest red flags I see buyers miss all the time when they're walking through homes. The first one is cracks in the walls, the floor, or the ceilings. Now, if you ever go to a home walkthrough with me and you pay attention to what I'm doing is I'm walking around and I'm actually looking up at the ceiling. Now, I know that my buyers are most likely going in and they're checking out the kitchen and the bedrooms and bathroom layout, things like that. They're starting to envision where they may put their furniture, where they're going to put their TV in the living room. Is their kitchen table going to fit in this kitchen, or are we going to need a dining space? Whatever, things like that. Now, I'm not the one who's going to live there, so truly those things are not as important to me. I am there looking for things that they might not be looking for. So if you pay attention to what I'm doing, you'll see me looking around at the ceiling. I am trying to look for cracks in the ceiling or down the walls, sometimes even around the floor, because those are easily missed as most buyers aren't often looking up at the ceilings, they're looking at the rooms themselves. And so cracks in ceilings are giveaways, tells, whatever you want to call it, that point to potential foundation or roofing issues. In addition to that, I'm looking for stains in the ceiling. Was there any water leakage earlier in the home's existence that, perhaps a seller is trying to cover up? Perhaps they aren't covering it up at all and it's just showing, hey, yes, we had a leak upstairs, we had a leak through the roof, whatever it is. Now, if it's a two-story house and you see a stain in the ceiling, good chance you're probably going to find a bathroom right above that area where they've had a leak in the past. If there's no upstairs or you're already in the upstairs level, again, stains in the ceiling there are pointing to a roof leak at some point. Now, not all of these are major catastrophic issues. Those are things that we want to inquire with the selling agent for history of the house. Perhaps they had a ceiling issue and there was a roof leak in the past, but since then they've gotten the roof fixed. They just didn't take the time to go up there and paint the ceiling to make it look all good, and that's okay. That kind of thing happens. But those are the kind of things that I'm looking for, whether or not there are cracks in anything that might point to either a bigger issue. Sometimes it's just a seam where, because, most of these are built with drywall. And so maybe the seam is coming apart because, especially in a ceiling, gravity wins. It's drawing uh, the board down. And so perhaps that's just a minor fix, pretty easy to do, and not something that should kill a deal. Now, like I said, I'm also looking for stains. Now, I'm not just looking for stains in the ceiling, I'm looking for potential stains on the floor. If there are throw rugs on the floor, you might want to pull those up and see if there's any issues with the floor underneath that they are trying to cover up. I'm also going to be opening cabinet doors in the kitchen and the bathroom because you want to see if there's been any leakage underneath the sink that, again, either they're trying to cover up or something that got fixed in the past, or something that they're not covering up at all. They just aren't fixing it. And so that's going to cause a problem potentially for the buyer there. Now, one of the things you're probably going to notice, buyers and the agent, is odors in the house. When you walk in, you're probably going to be hit with a smell of smoke or pets in the house. Now, that is something that is pretty much up to the buyer. Maybe they're not turned off by the smell of things like smoke or pets in the house. Maybe they already know that they have a pet they're going to be bringing into the house as well. So a home that may already smell like a dog may not be such a big deal. Some buyers are turned off by any odor. Now, I will tell you, the sniffer on my body really isn't all that great. If I notice something, it's probably even more significant to the buyers. And I've rarely been with a buyer that hasn't noticed a strong smell in the house. And that's usually indicative of them being more picky about smells, and maybe that's going to be a deal killer. But there are ways to remedy odors in a house. Okay, whether that's asking the seller to take care of it or knowing that when a homeowner comes in, maybe they already know they're going to change the flooring in the house, and a lot of odors get trapped in the flooring and the curtains, and those things will be gone when the seller moves out. And so potentially that's something that the buyer, if they love the house, is willing to overlook and deal with deodorizing when they are the owner later on. And one final one is uneven floors. Now, this is more prevalent in older homes. And here in Indianapolis, we have some homes that are 90 to 100 plus years old. You're often going to find uneven floors in homes like that. Not always a turnoff, especially if you can go down into the basement or the crawl space and see what kind of support is down there. Perhaps they already addressed it, and by addressing the support beams underneath, it winds up creating a bit of unevenness in the floor on the main level. That kind of thing happens, but older homes are just built different. They're built to last. And so an uneven floor in an older home really shouldn't be a turnoff. I would say, unless you go downstairs into the basement, realize nothing has been supported, and this is a big potential problem later on because of course fixing the foundation, the raftering underneath the main level flooring can be very expensive, and so that's something you want to be concerned about if you do notice it. In a newer home, I don't know, I'd say anything built in the 50s, 60s, 70s till now, if you find an uneven floor, that could be an issue. There are really three types of support for a house. You've got a slab, which is just a plain old cement slab with a house built on top of it. If you have uneven floors there, that's definitely a concern because that slab should be level when they build it. And unevenness now means there's probably a foundation issue there. Then there's a crawl space, which is a place where you might be able to store some things, but for the most part, it's just a space underneath the main level of the house that allows for access to HVAC and electrical to run through the bottom of the house. If you have unevenness there, that could be a foundation issue. It could just be a simple support fix. And again, maybe that's something that's already been addressed. The third type of foundation you have in a house would be a basement. Most basements you're going to be able to walk in, hopefully at least human height of 6 feet or more, and finding an uneven floor on the main level of the house with a basement, that's easier to address. Hopefully the current seller has already looked into that and taken care of it. But if not, you may have to have a foundation conversation with the seller and figure out how that's going to be addressed. Those issues in foundation can be expensive if they're caught. One of the things about Indiana is moisture. Okay, we go through all 4 seasons here in the Indianapolis area, and so there's going to be a lot of shifts in foundation, no matter what type of foundation you have, and that can create unevenness. Now, ideally, those shifts are addressed or aren't a big deal, so minor issues, and they can be overlooked. But if you do have to call in a foundation company, you're definitely going to want to know how much that's going to cost. Then that becomes an inspection issue that you probably want to have a professional come in and address with you and decide what's going to happen next. Now, there can be some things that come up in an inspection that seem like they're going to be scary, but realistically, they turn out to be not such a big deal. Now, I'm not saying that you don't necessarily want to ask the seller to address these after an inspection, because it does depend on maybe the severity, how long something's been going on, and potentially the cost. But as a buyer, you can't necessarily look at and be nitpicky about every single thing that needs to be fixed in the house, because there's a good chance the seller is going to walk away and go work with somebody else. So you do have to kind of choose your battles. But something that can come up that may seem to be scary, but really isn't such a big deal are leaks. As long as homes sit there, leaks happen. Okay. It happens with brand new homes. It happens with older homes. Doesn't really make any difference. Like I said earlier, one of the things I will do when going through a house that many buyers don't, at least on our first couple of visits, till they realize, hey, that Brian does this all the time. Open the cabinet doors. Look under the kitchen sink. Look at the flooring underneath the dishwasher. Look underneath the sinks in the bathrooms. Go find the water heater, wherever that is in the house. Look around it. Is the floor damaged? Are there any active leaks happening? Leaks can be minor fixes. Okay, call in a professional plumber, have them take care of it. Might be a couple $100. All in all, maybe not such a big deal. Hopefully not a deal breaker. There's a chance that a seller doesn't even know it's happening. Depending on its location, they may have no idea that a leak is going on. You've opened their eyes to it, and hopefully the seller is going to be willing to fix that on your behalf, and then you can move on to closing. Another scary looking issue is electrical things. Okay, I am not an electrician. I will hire an electrician to most things in my house. Maybe changing a light switch, I'm good there, but a lot of electrical things I don't want to have anything to do with. If you're anything like me, you're going to want a professional to take care of things. And if you see something that comes up as an electrical issue, you might be like, oh boy, here we go. Not all electrical issues are a big deal. Okay, they sound scary, they might even look scary, but a quick fix by a professional electrician, you're good to go. And the last thing I want to touch on is cosmetic issues. Paint, carpeting, drywall, things like that. Okay, when the homeowner takes down all their pictures and moves out, you're going to have holes in the wall. It's just going to happen. There's a chance when they're moving things around to move out of the house that they jam into the wall and it creates a small dent in the drywall. Those are super easy fixes. Look it up on YouTube. You can most likely take care of that yourself. Okay, paint. Well, the paint may not be the color that you want. Paint the new room. Paint the room yourself because paint is inexpensive as far as repairs go to a house, and asking a seller to take care of paint issues is really not something that falls into uh, the area of defect or safety concern. In fact, if you do ask them to paint the house or fix paint scratches or things like that, there's a very good chance that that seller is going to walk away because that is cosmetic. You're going to be the new homeowner. You got to go in and paint. Just deal with it. As I said earlier, when I'm walking around, I'm looking for cracks in the ceiling or potential areas where there was a leak in a ceiling somewhere. Again, we're going to inquire when that happened and has that been addressed. And then on the backside, there's a chance that the buyer is going to be the one who has to take care of the repair on that. Minor repairs. If we're talking something expensive, no, the seller should be taking care of that. But if there's a crack in the ceiling, maybe from settling or something like that, perhaps you're just going to leave it alone. If there's a wet spot on the ceiling, a stain from what was clearly a moisture issue before, the moisture issue has been addressed, and now you as the homeowner need to come in and paint the ceiling, just paint the ceiling. Not a big deal. I'm going to give you a little insight into my house. If someone were to come in to buy my house, walked into the living room, and paid very close attention to the ceiling, they would notice a square in the drywall of the ceiling of my house that looks different than the rest of the room. That's because when we built our house, very first day we moved in, we noticed that there was a leak coming from upstairs, and this was a brand new construction house. Well, the builder came in, they took care of the leak as they were supposed to do. They took care of fixing the drywall on the ceiling as they're supposed to do, but it didn't exactly match because when they did the stamping of the ceiling, well, the pattern didn't exactly match. It's close, but it didn't exactly match what the rest of the ceiling looks like when it was done the first time. So someone could look at that and go, did they have a leak upstairs and this is the problem? Okay, from when this video is being made, that happened 8 years ago. Hasn't happened since. We've had no issues with it whatsoever. And it shouldn't be a concern for a buyer because there isn't anything currently wrong with it. So those are the things that we ask the selling agent about to investigate when it happened, what was done to fix it, and where does it stand now, and not worry so much about the fact that the ceiling isn't 100% matching because it looks just fine. You do have to look closely to even see it. All right, now let's talk about where you should be looking. So, like I said, most buyers are walking through a house and they're looking at where they're going to put their furniture, where in the living room is the TV going to go, what direction is their bed going to face in the bedrooms, that kind of thing. Here are the things that you should be looking for when you're walking through, in addition to those things, because yes, that is important. My recommendation, and I find that not a lot of buyers do this, is open the closets, every single closet, because that is an area where things can be hidden that could be pointing to bigger deals, such as look at the ceiling in the closet. Maybe there's a leak up there or a crack in the ceiling that nobody pays attention to because rarely does anyone go in the closet and look up. But that can be a spot where there's a moisture problem, or maybe there's holes in there they don't even know about from a critter that's living in the walls. Who knows? But look in the closets, look at the floor, look at the ceiling. Just a quick, brief look, easy to do. Like I said, look at the ceiling. Look for cracks. Look for areas of settling. Look for any areas of look for any areas of moisture that may be old or potentially new, I suppose. Something they might be trying to cover up. Look around the windows and the doors. That's another area you can check for cracks to see if there's been any settling or any issues, especially around windows. Sometimes you have some moisture issues and you can see that they've painted over it or not. Maybe the wood around a window could be rotting, could be happening around doorways as well. But you want to pay special attention to those areas when you're at a house. Find out where the HVAC is located. That would be the furnace or the heating and air conditioning units. Look for where the water heater is located. You're looking for leaks. You're looking for mold that could be forming on the walls or in the ventilation. That kind of thing would need to be addressed by the seller for sure. So you want to pay attention to what could be a small closet with your HVAC stuff in it, or it's out in the garage, or sometimes it's up in a ceiling, which is unusual, but it has happened. So find those things and make sure everything looks good. All right, when you find the house that you love and you want to make an offer, I recommend to all of my buyers that you have a home inspection. Being diligent when you're looking through the house for the first time or maybe the second time and paying attention to things that might need to be addressed are those things are important for when you get to the home inspection portion of the show because those are things you want to address with the inspector. I would actually recommend that you keep a list of things, maybe jot it down on your phone, write it down on a piece of paper, something like that. And then when you get to the inspection, ask about it at the end. Because if you have a good inspector, they're going to do the inspection without any bother from you. And yes, you should be present for the inspection. Then they're going to go through the house with you and show you what they found in their inspection and be detailed when they find things that potentially need to be addressed. You have your list of things handy in your back pocket. And if the inspector addresses those things without you having to prompt them, that's good. Definitely probably means that there's something significantly wrong with that, and you probably want to get that addressed. But if they don't address the things that are on your list, well, then you want to point them out. And maybe the inspector has to walk over there and take a second look at it to investigate further in their professional opinion about whether that's a major thing or a minor thing and what, a recommendation might be for what you're going to do about that. So here's the big takeaway. When you're touring homes, you don't need to know everything. That's what inspections and professionals are for. But if you can start spotting these early warning signs and understand what's a real issue versus what's just cosmetic, you're going to make way better decisions as a buyer. And honestly, that's the difference between buying a home you feel great about and one that turns into a stressful, expensive situation after the fact. If you're getting ready to start touring homes here in Indianapolis, or you've already started on your own and want a second set of professional eyes on things, that's exactly what I help people with every day. And if you want more videos like this to walk through the process step by step so you can buy your first home with confidence, make sure you subscribe. You know what to do. Call BQ.